This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. I would never say that urbanism is about getting everyone to go car-free, but a city that does have a lot of car-free households is probably doing something right. At the very least, it is a built-in constituency for improvements to walking, cycling, and transit. This video is a cross-country comparison of which cities have the most car-free households and which cities have the least. I'm looking at all metro areas with more than 1 million people across Ireland, New Zealand, the UK, Australia, Canada, and the United States of, wow, that's a lot of cities. You could call this the Anglosphere. I call it countries whose census I know how to access. Actually, I have France and Germany too, but I'm going to leave those for a bonus at the end. I hesitate on Anglosphere because I live in the French-speaking part of Canada. But whatever, let's go with it. It's better than the alternative of saying the Five Eyes intelligence sharing countries plus Ireland. Let's start from the bottom, Drake. What's the lowest rate of car-free households in the Anglosphere? It's 4.6% in the Inland Empire, a suburban region of about 5 million people east of Los Angeles. 5% is basically the floor, the lowest rate of car-free households you can find, at least for metro areas above 1 million people in these countries. That's the rate of car-free households you get in much of the US South and Southwest, places like Austin, Atlanta, Nashville, and Phoenix. Also Perth, Western Australia. 5% is low compared to the places we're going to see next, but it's also not negligible. Even in the most car-centric places, the idea that everybody owns one is just not true, whether because of preference or disability or money or whatever else. Going all in on cars is basically saying that life is going to suck for at least 5% of households. At least. The most car-owning places in Canada are, you might have guessed, in Alberta. In Edmonton, just 6% of households don't own cars. In Calgary, it's a little higher. Auckland, the only New Zealand metro area with over 1 million people, also fits in here with 7%. Nationally, New Zealand has the lowest car-free rate, or the highest car ownership rate, of any of the countries here, even the US. Part of this might be New Zealand not having any big cities, the kind of places that really rack up the car-free households. Although we're going to see later that smaller cities can have pretty high rates of car-free households too. Minneapolis and Portland are both 8% car-free. These are cities that aren't super dense and they didn't inherit the same legacy transit networks of some of the US cities that we'll see later. But they have been building some pretty decent modern LRT systems, on top of having some of the best bike infrastructure in the US. Minneapolis was also early to get rid of minimum parking requirements on new housing developments back in 2021. Portland followed in 2023. It's probably too early for that to affect the car-free numbers in any big way, but that is exactly the kind of thing that cities should be doing if they want to allow more households that want to go car-free. Just to be clear, that 8% is for the whole metro area. The city of Portland and the city of Minneapolis are higher, 14% and 18%. But metro area is just the easiest way to compare cities. In Australia, Melbourne is 9% car-free and Sydney is 11%. Like everywhere, the more central you are, the higher that goes, reaching 40 or 50% around the CBDs. But across the whole metro area, Greater Melbourne and Greater Sydney, Australia's two big cities are lower than you might expect given their strong transit. Yeah, they're not as low as some of the more extreme US cities on the list, but both of them have extensive suburban railways. Approximately 400 kilometers or 250 miles each. Fully electrified and almost subway frequencies, especially in Sydney. They both get a ton of ridership, especially by Anglosphere standards. But that doesn't translate into as many car-free households as we're about to see. I'm going to dedicate a future video to how Australia breaks some of our assumptions around transit. But for now, countrywide, Australia has the second lowest rate of car-free households after New Zealand. With one major and obvious exception, the higher end of car-free households in the US are Philadelphia, Boston, Chicago, and San Francisco. Also San Juan, Puerto Rico. These metro areas are 12 or 13% car-free. San Juan is a little different, but the others are large old industrial centers that inherited a dense central city and a lot of transit, although San Francisco's BART came later. Boston, for example, has the Green Line legacy streetcar or light rail system, multiple heavy rail subway lines, and far-reaching, although commuter-oriented, suburban rail. Boston is also on one end of the Northeast Corridor for Amtrak. Although Portland and Minneapolis are better known for it, Boston and its neighboring municipalities like Cambridge are building some of the nicest cycling infrastructure in the US. Boston proper and Cambridge are both at about a third of households car-free. There's still one more US city to look at later, but countrywide, the US has the third lowest rate of car-free households in the Anglosphere. Next up, we have Toronto and Montreal, Canada's two biggest cities, where 16% and 18% of households are car-free. Canada being a little more car-free than the US is not that surprising, but the fact that we own fewer cars than Australia kind of is. Unlike the other cities, I don't have data below the metro area, so I can't separate out suburbs versus different neighborhoods or whatever. But I assume that Montreal's large inheritance of pre-war walkable density contributes a lot to it being an outlier in North America when it comes to car-free living. Along with Quebec City, Montreal was also the home of the first car-sharing service in North America. Communauto. Communauto? I've heard it pronounced both ways. Car share is a great way to own fewer cars and still have access to one when you need it. In the central neighborhoods of Montreal, between 20 and 40% of households are members of Communauto. They're also seeing pretty fast growth in some of the more suburban boroughs of Montreal. Countrywide, 11% of Canadian households are car-free. One step above is Ireland. 14% of households are car-free. In Dublin specifically, it's 20%. To line up with North American metro areas, I'm looking at County Dublin here, population 1.5 million. Just Dublin City is more like 30%. Ireland is an interesting match with New Zealand. Both of them are islands, they have similar enough populations, and their main city has about 1.5 million people, including the suburbs, which isn't that big. But Dublin has way more car-free living than Auckland. Dublin is about 50% denser. Parking isn't as universally available. It doesn't have a highway through its city center. Another reason lots of European cities have lower rates of car ownership is that their countries make it much more expensive to own a car. Ireland's vehicle registration tax increases the price of a car by between 10 and 40% depending on emissions. According to the Numbeo cost of living comparison, buying a car in Dublin is 50 to 70% more expensive than in Auckland. Gas or petrol is 30% more expensive. Next, we have three cities in England, Leeds, Manchester, and Birmingham, where about a quarter of households are car-free. Birmingham, specifically the West Midlands Combined Authority, has a population of about 3 million people, but it has 5 times the car-free rate of its closest US population equivalent, Denver. One thing you notice about suburbs in Denver, they often have some pretty nice walking and cycling pathways. But to get to any destinations, you usually have to cross some pretty gnarly roads. Suburbs in Birmingham, from what I've seen, don't even necessarily have that much more cycling and pedestrian infrastructure. But the scale is just very different. Here's the environment outside a McDonald's on the edge of suburban Birmingham. Roundabout, 2-lane roads, houses nearby, multiple bus routes, each approximately every 15 minutes. Now here's a McDonald's on the edge of suburban Denver. Up to 9-lane roads, indirect access from homes nearby, 1 hourly bus. While it does have some frequent buses and a commuter rail system that's often faster than driving, Birmingham doesn't have a subway, metro, or U-Bahn system, which you'd typically find in a similarly sized city on the European continent. The West Midlands Metro is a tram or light rail. Countrywide, 24% of England is car-free. The third most car-free city in the Anglosphere is Glasgow in Scotland, which is 31% car-free. Glasgow City is 44%, but I combined all the surrounding council areas like North Lanarkshire to form a kind of metro area. This isn't perfect, but comparing across countries never is. Glasgow has a low emissions zone in the city centre, low pollution cars only. Glasgow is one of only 2 cities in the UK outside of London to have a subway or an underground. A 10-kilometer circle line that's one of the oldest in the world. It has an electrified suburban rail network run by ScotRail, which also operates nationally. I love to see bike racks at train stations like this one, which serves subway and suburban trains. Thanks to everyone who contributed to my footage archive request. It makes it easier to include more cities, like I'm doing here. Like Dublin and Birmingham, Glasgow is just noticeably more compact than New World cities. Even in areas that you call suburban, the streets are just noticeably less wide, which normally I appreciate. But some drivers use this as an excuse to encroach on pedestrian space. In Glasgow, I'm seeing a lot of pavement parking, aka parking cars on sidewalks. Ironically, this is way more common in European cities than in otherwise more car-centric North American ones. Seriously, do these people think at all about what this does for people who have a wheelchair or a stroller, a pram? Some parts of the Netherlands even call this Canadian parking, which is baffling because it's virtually unheard of here. Countrywide, Scotland is 26% car-free, just ahead of England for the #1 most car-free country in the Anglosphere. They're separated here instead of being grouped together as the UK because they actually run their census separately. Another interesting thing about Scotland, and to a lesser extent England and Ireland, even smaller towns and cities and rural areas often have surprisingly high rates of car-free living. Elgin, a town of 25,000 people, is more car-free than most major cities in Canada or the US. Surrounding rural areas are like 14% car-free. I totally understand living car-free or car-light in Glasgow or Edinburgh, but this does make me think twice. Is this rural poverty? Age? Is it at all practical to live in a place like this without a car? Number 2 on our list is New York, which is 31% car-free in the metro area. In New York City, it's 57%. New York City is a massive outlier in the New World Anglosphere when it comes to transit ridership and car-free living. I said that Montreal was an outlier, but New York is much more. Although it is interesting to notice that New York is a metro area of 20 million people, and it just matches the car-free rate of Glasgow, which is just under 2 million. New York recently implemented the first congestion pricing in North America. The fact that it was such a fight even here, Manhattan is one of the densest, most congested, most transit-accessible places in the world, is eye-opening. Hopefully an inspiration for some other congested downtowns. And then, drumroll please, the #1 most car-free city in the Anglosphere is London, 38% car-free across a region of about 11 million. Central boroughs like Hackney are 65% car-free or more. To make something approximating a metro area, I'm combining the London travel-to-work area with the Slough and Heathrow travel-to-work area just to the west. Like New York, London is basically self-explanatory here. London had the first metro in the world and is still one of the world's great transit cities. It's dense by North American standards, although interestingly not as dense as some of its European continental equivalents like Paris and Madrid. It has congestion pricing in the central city, and being in the UK, buying and fueling a car is more expensive than it would be in America, Canada, or Australia. It's becoming a cycling city. See Evan Ettinger's video. This video is mainly about the Anglosphere, but just for comparison, France and Germany come in at 19% and 20% car-free nationwide, so less car-free than England and Scotland actually. The Paris region, Île-de-France, population 12 million, is 35% car-free. Paris proper, population 2 million, is 68% car-free. Car-free households in Paris proper actually increased by 7 percentage points in just over a decade. I wasn't able to find city-specific data from Germany. For this video, I collected data from every metro area with over 1 million people to understand the state of car-free living in the Anglosphere. Here are 5 main findings. London is the most car-free city in the Anglosphere by a large margin. Even in the most car-centric cities, car-free living never really goes below 5%. The US is not the highest car country. That's actually New Zealand, then Australia. Ireland and the UK have much higher rates of car-free living, even in smaller centers. Montreal and New York City are the biggest outliers in the New World, fitting in closer to Europe, although still not quite there. Having a lot of car-free households is not automatically the same as good urbanism or good transit. It's fair to say they correlate though, and it's just a fun thing to look at. A spreadsheet of the 75 or so cities will be included in the pinned comment. Just keep in mind, comparing data across different countries like this is never perfect. The data can be collected in somewhat different ways, and more importantly, it'll be affected by which boundaries you choose for each city. Thanks for watching through to the end of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and a special thanks to our supporters on Patreon.